In this episode, we're talking about fabric content.
Today we're going to talk about fabrics.
Yep.
So it seems like an obvious question, but when you are buying apparel, how do you find the fabric content? What are you looking for?
Right. So generally, if you're buying it through a distributor, if you go on their website and you're looking at the specs on every product, they should be listed there. They have fabric content. And also, when you get blanks in, I recommend getting samples from your suppliers in. Test things before you sell them into the market. So you know you're decorating. Make sure those labels match what they say online. In some rare cases, you'll get some products that aren't common products, that aren't core products, that might have a different fabric content when you actually bring it in than what it said online. So check the label and make sure that you know what you're decorating.
Okay, so are all fabrics made the same? Is every cotton like every other cotton? Is every poly like every other poly?
Yeah, so let's sort of walk down through the different fabrics that are most commonly used in apparel. So cotton, number one, is universally performs pretty much the same way. So when you're decorating cotton, it's your easiest fabric to decorate. From a heat transfer perspective, our athletic formula works on it, our fashion formula works on it, vintage works on it. So it's good for decorating a wide variety of products would work on 100% cotton.
Because it can handle that heat, right?
Yeah, cotton is it handles the heat. You don't have the problem of dye migration. What you would be concerned about with cotton is whether it shrinks or not. So you might want to look for pre-shrunk cotton garments when you're shopping for cotton. Sometimes if you get an item that's not pre-shrunk and then you print it, and then it goes through the laundry, it'll shrink down, and then the image on there doesn't shrink. And people go, I got a wave in my design, it looks wavy. Well, it's because the shirt around the design shrunk and it creates that waving effect. So you want to get pre-shrunk cotton, but generally 100% cotton is like your easiest thing, base product to decorate. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So how about when you move on to the synthetic fabrics? Like when you're moving into polyester, what do you have to look out for there?
Right, so polyester is synthetic, man-made, and so it is also a dyed fabric. Your biggest concern with polyester is dye migration, which means the dye used to color the garment can actually be activated or agitated by the heat and migrate its way through the print that you put on it. And so most people make the mistake of trying to just lay down a thicker and thicker layer of ink on top of it. So if they're screen printing it, they'll flash it, print, flash it, print, flash it to stack the layers of ink. The downside of that is every time you flash it, you're adding heat to the process, you're activating those dyes, and you're causing it to agitate, and it'll eventually migrate over time. So at the end of the press, you look at it, it's beautiful, it's crisp white on a nice red jersey. 3 days later, that white is now pink. It's because you got it too hot. And so you want to control heat with polyester. Our athletic formula is designed specifically for polyester garments. It's versatile enough to work on cotton and cotton polyester blends, but if you have something to worry about dye migration, you want to stick with the athletic formula that applies at 325 degrees, safely below the dye migration point. Generally speaking, the dye migration point in most polyester fabrics is 350 to 360. I say most because there's some now cheaper imported products that you need to be concerned about that the dyes just aren't set right out of the box. And so a quick way of testing for that is you can get a warm cup of water, you can bring in the polyester garment and dip it in that water and then rub it against white cotton. Okay. And you'll actually see if the dyes aren't set, they will transfer over into that white fabric.
From just warm
water?
Just
warm water, yeah.
So heat press.
Yeah,
really.
Or dryer and screen printing. So if you're decorating that garment, you want to get a better garment and counsel your client away from that item and find something that's going to be more color fast than that. And then the other test that you can do for dye migration at a heat transfer level is to take a piece of copy paper, just uncoated copy paper.
Computer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Pull it out of your printer and go over to your heat press. Lay the polyester garment on there. Put the cotton, or put the white paper on top of it. Press it at the temperature that you're going to be applying your transfers. In this case, 325. Mm-hmm. And then you'll see if the dyes actually gas through and dye that paper. When you pick the paper off of the garment, if the paper is the color of the garment, you got a garment that has a risk for dye migration.
Okay.
And so you might want to be shopping for a different polyester garment that is color fast. So I recommend if you're going to get into decorating synthetics, you definitely do advanced planning. You don't switch vendors back and forth. You don't switch for the cheapest price. Get the garments in, test them that way, make sure you know what you're getting, and then as you receive them in lot after lot, use those same tests before you start your manufacturing process. Just to make sure you got a good batch.
Okay, perfect. So, all right, so that's polyester.
That's poly.
Well, now if we move on to, a really popular trend now is compression apparel.
Right.
So using anything with lycra, spandex. So what are our concerns here? How do we work with this fabric?
Yeah, so those are all synthetics, and oftentimes the label isn't as descriptive as maybe you want it to be. And so you'll see brand names interchanged with terms like, so you'll have lycra or spandex or elastane, which the Europeans call spandex. And basically it's compression material, and you can even be 100% polyester and be compression material. And so your concern there is a couple things. One is the stretch. So you'll have fabrics that are compression that are two-way stretch or four-way stretch. So two-way means it'll stretch one direction and not the other. Four-way means it stretches in all four directions. And so you need a product that's going to stretch and rebound on that. Our performance foam is designed to stretch and rebound onto high compression materials.
And that's the four-way stretch.
Yeah, four-way stretch or even a two-way stretch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The concern you have with blends that are polyester and spandex or polyester and lycra is the dye migration potential from polyester in that blend. And so you need to do those same polyester dye migration tests. Make sure it's going to withstand the heat and not have dye migration issues when you apply it at the 300 degrees, which our performance formula applies at. And then you also you can do some testing and make sure that the colors you're going to use. So like, let's say you're putting white on a red compression shirt. I'd be more concerned about testing that ahead of time than I would be about putting black on a red polyester shirt, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Compression shirt.
Okay, so it's all about planning ahead.
Planning it.
All right, so now these, reusable grocery bags that we take into the stores that are really popular now.
Yes.
How do we decorate those?
Yeah, so no longer paper or plastic, it's bring your own bag, right? I go to Aldi, I need my quarter, and I need my bags, right? And so these bags are made out of non-woven polypropylene. I actually discovered what that was by melting one on a heat press. In a sort of infamous story here that we pass around in the folklore of our history here. It has a low melting point, which I discovered by turning one into soup.
Oh.
And yeah, which we'll do a video on how to clean a heat press after you do that. It melts at about 290, 300 degrees, and so we developed the non-woven polypropylene formula to apply at 250 degrees safely below that melting point so that you can decorate those fabrics. Your biggest concern there is the melting point.
Okay, so just keep it at a low temp and you should be safe.
Yep, and when you're decorating those, one thing to keep in mind is oftentimes you have gussets or straps or zippers or other things built into the bag, and you need to get that imprint area raised above there, so like get the silicone pad that coats your lower platen, order an extra one of those, cut it down to the size of your imprint area to elevate the imprint area above the zippers and gussets and bags and straps and all that other stuff, so you get proper pressure right on the imprint area, and you don't have it being absorbed by the straps and not touching your imprint area.
All right, perfect. So let's do a quick recap.
Yep.
All right, so for cotton, be careful of shrinkage.
Yep.
For poly, make sure that the dye's not gonna migrate.
Right.
So do those quick tests.
Yep.
For elastic or elastane or spandex or lycra, those things, you want to make sure that you check the poly content. Yep. Very same as polyester.
Yep.
And when we move on to our polypro, just keep the temperature at a low point.
Yep. Okay. And one other fabric we didn't mention is nylon. And so nylon is popular for cinch bags. It's popular for some umbrellas and for rain jackets. And so what I'd recommend on nylon is your concern is the shrinkage and scorching from the heat. And that's why a lot of people use transfers as opposed to screen printing it, because you print the first color, you flash it, and then try to register the second color, and now the bag is shrunk slightly and it can't register. And so one transfer, one hit is a good solution for that. When you're dealing with items that might have rain repellent or water repellent coatings on them, you need to test that in advance. That's why we send you a sample pack. So if it's an umbrella, if it's a jacket, it might have a coating on the outside of that nylon that is designed to repel the rain, and that coating might be heat sensitive, it might screen, it might scorch, and so we recommend you take our nylon sample, you cut it apart, you test it ahead of time before you go ahead and do a full production run, and make sure you get a garment or a blanket you can decorate well.
All right, so it's all about testing as much as you can beforehand.
Yep. Do your homework.
Do your homework.